So how about a board game with a bunch of superheroes, but not those same Marvel and DC heroes that you see all the time? How about Sentinels of the Multiverse? So we're going to take a look at Sentinels of the Multiverse by Greater Than Games. So what we're going to specifically take a look at is Sentinels of the Multiverse Definitive Edition, as well as the Rook City Renegades expansion for the Definitive Edition. There's a second expansion that was supposed to be coming out called Desperation, and we're going to get into the complications with that. So this is a cooperative game. It is a card-based game with just a few tokens, but mainly cards. And I'll pop this open here and show you what is going on here. We are going to have some of these larger cards here that come into play, but mainly we're looking at, yeah, that's how many cards come in this here. I'm using a 3D printed tray that I found online that someone was selling, and when I saw that, I was like,
I'd buy that for $1.
But that really helps you get them in here well, especially if you sleeve your cards like I do. Fits them all in there really well sleeved. So we basically got, in the base game, we have 12 different playable characters in there. You have 6 different villains, as well as 6 different locations it can be played at, which help keep things really unique. Additionally, you also have some alternate abilities for all the characters so that you can play with the same decks, but the ability that they run with will be different using the alternate abilities. So that's really awesome. The creators of this game have basically made a whole lore for Sentinel comics. They have made this alternate timeline where DC and Marvel didn't take off, but Sentinel comics ended up being the main comic book that took off. A bunch of characters, a bunch of storylines from over the years. I mean, they've got like whole stories about like how all these characters and villains have interacted with each other and what team ups you've had, and when the villains have like gone with each other and done, and just like it's like a whole thing for this. One of the things here with the Definitive Edition is that they have gone through here and done artwork in this where they have things that emulate the comic look of different eras, so that you will have some of the characters that are supposed to be older will have some newer artwork, but also some artwork that looks like, I'm going to show you one here, the character Legacy. I'm going to show you one here where we have Legacy's current appearance in this fictional comic, and his original look from back there. And they have that for everybody, including characters like Tachyon and everyone else in here. And you can see, looking at the cards here for the character Fanatic, that you got some stuff that looks older, some more recent looking artwork. It's just yeah, an interesting idea to come up with this whole fictitious comic book. And what's going on with this being the Definitive Edition? Well, there was an earlier iteration of this game that had come out, and they ended up making a Definitive Edition, which was going to be kind of like a retooling of it a little bit, compacting a bunch of the characters together, reworking, adding mechanics and stuff in there. And these are really going to be your better versions of it here, the Definitive Edition and the Rook City Renegades, which we'll get into in a bit. And so you may see some older versions of it there from those older original styles. That's not what I'm going over here. There's also a lot of other little games that they have spun off of Sentinel comics. But once again, as I showed you, this is mainly a card-based game. I mean, we do have, you know, a few things in here like some health dials, and you have a small number of tokens, which are mainly to help you track things. Most of these, there's a couple of these that involve some of the character mechanics, but most of this is just going to be things that help you track what is going on in the game. So how does this whole thing work? Well, you're going to have 3 different things going on there. You're going to have a villain that you're playing against, which will be a villain scenario. Each player that will be in there will have one of the characters. This is designed to have 3 to 5 players in it. You can have less with just having some people control multiple characters in there. And you also have the environment that you'll be playing in, and the environment's not like a physical map, it's also just another deck where you'll see things come out from that. And really just right here on the back of the manual where we have this at here, you can see basically the entire turn sequence, which is essentially how the game goes. The villain will start off each round. After the villain has their turn, which has the 3 phases in there, you'll have the heroes that will go one at a time in order, each of them having the 5 phases that go with them. And then after the heroes, the environment will have its turn. Then you will start the next round, which will start with the villain once again and go through there. And really this thing right here on the back of the manual, that is basically the whole order that the game goes in. And really the game, it's pretty simple to understand. It just has, what the characters can do and everything get interesting, and that's what makes the game unique. Also having a bunch of different characters in here really helps this thing be replayable. As I said, the base game had 12 playable characters. Rook City gives you another 6. And it also gives you like another 8 or 9 villains here in Rook City, as well as 5 environments. So really adds just a lot going on with the game. So let's take a look at some of these decks and show you what these different cards will look like. So I'm going to grab the character Unity. I'll show you her deck, and you'll get a little bit of an idea what is going on. The vast majority of your cards are going to be one-shots. You can see there where it says one-shot on it. Once you play the one-shot, it goes out of play, goes into your trash pile. This is a game that when the deck, you'll have so many cards in your hand, and you have cards that will go into the trash or cards that will be in play on the table. When you hit the end of your deck, the trash or discard pile is shuffled into a new deck, so you don't ever run out of cards. You'll then have a number of different cards that can be played. You'll have ongoing cards, some of them just labeled as ongoing, and some of them ongoing limited. Anything that says limited means that only one copy of it can actually be in play at a time, that you can't have multiples. You have items, which can be in play. Once again, you have items and limited items. And then you can have things like what Unity has, which are mechanical golems. And these are, you see, have a little number up here in the corner, which means they essentially have a health or a hit count on those. And that basically goes out there as like another target. The golems will be able to do things. A lot of the villains have additional things that are out there. You can think of those as all being kind of like sidekicks. Now the one shots pretty much just do something right away and then are discarded and left. The ones that stay in play will often have something that will hit specific phases, which we saw on here that we had different phases on there. Start phase, play phase, power phase, draw phase, and end phase. The start and end phases, they're just things that happen at the beginning and the end of the turn. Some cards will reference that. Play phase is when you play a card out of your hand. Power phase is when you can use one of the powers, either the power from your character card or a power from one of your cards that you have played and put out onto the table. You get to do one of those, which is different than the start and end phase where you get to play all of them that are on that. The draw phase, which lets you draw a card, and the end phase, which is something that happens there at the end. You see that Unity here has like this card, which has something that can be done during the power phase, which can be an alternate power instead of the one that she would normally have. One of her mechanical golems here has things that can happen during the play phase and the draw phase. And this golem here, which has something that happen in the end phase. And so just anytime those are out there, when you get to that phase, all those cards that you have up there, you get to do all of the cards that you have played out on the table. You're able to do what is labeled on them for that phase, all of them except for the power phase, where you get to pick one of your powers. Also going to go through Tachyon's deck to show you something that Unity doesn't have, which is going to be something listing a reaction. A reaction is this happens like after you are attacked, you can activate this. So reactions are just something you get to do after you are attacked. And so we'll see that looking at one of the cards here, Legacy's card, we can see his basically his power or his ability there that can be used during the power phase. We can see that he has a health of 32, so when you play with him, the dial that you would take, you would set to 32, and just getting him down to 0 would defeat him. Once he is defeated, that flips around, and these things here happen on his turn. So it lets him take some of his actions and do things to help out the team even after he has been defeated. We can see, looking at his other card here, that he has a different power on it and also has a different health. This one only has 31 health, so it's not as much. We see that the villains have things that happen on their start phase and their end phase. So it's basically start phase, play the top card off of their deck, and then end phase. But we can also see there are times in there that will make them flip, and when they flip, it goes to the back, and now their start phase and their end phase change. So they can end up bouncing back and forth between different abilities that way. So what the villain is doing changes at different points in the game, and what makes you flip their cards over will vary depending on what's going on in the game. As I said, in the base game here, you've got all of your characters here, their regular ability and their first appearance ability. Also, some of the other characters get another card with the Rook City Renegades upgrade, such as Haka would normally have 2, but he gets another one here that gives him a different set of powers that can be played, that came along with the Rook City Renegades. There's several of them like that. Unity gets one that way. Bunker, Fanatic, the Wraith, and Raw. All of those characters get an additional power card, get an additional character card that lets them be played in a different way. But in the Rook City Renegades box, all of the characters come with multiple cards. We're looking at Expatriate, actually has 4, Setback has 4, and so you end up with a lot of different ways to be able to play the Rook City Renegades characters. Going into the environments that I talked about, these are just additional things that happen at the end of the turn. There can be good things or bad things that happen for you in the environment. There can be cards that can come out there that can be in play and be targets and things. That just all varies a little bit. I'm not going to go a whole lot into the mechanics of all the different characters, but you do have characters that all play very differently. In the base game, you have 2 manuals, which is basically your rule book and the lore book. The lore book, well, basically it goes over the lore of what is going on with all these characters and kind of gives you an explanation of who they are, what their backstory is, but also goes into what their gameplay is like. So you can kind of take a look at this and get a little bit of an idea what is going on with the gameplay for these characters. Rook City Renegades has 1 rule book that goes over both. Honestly, it's a little surprising that they didn't just drop some health dials into the Rook City Renegades box here. I mean, they made one new health dial for the villain, but if they'd have just dropped a few health dials in there, honestly, Rook City Renegades at that point could have been an actual playable game without having to use the expansion. So I'm just surprised they didn't go that way to just make it its own playable game that could merge in there more, kind of like what Unmatched does, that everything outside of the 2 solo packs that have come out would all be playable games and not just an expansion that's only good for people that already own some other product. But this is a really fun game. I like a lot of co-op games, but you've seen me go through a lot of co-op games on here already with Unmatched Adventures and Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters and Return to Dark Tower. You can say I also have Horrified back here, and this is something that's really fun. This does have has some stuff that kind of comes a little bit from like Magic the Gathering, as far as like the cards, as far as the different cards doing things. But this is a lot less complex of a game like that. It doesn't get nearly as heavy as Magic. It's not even as heavy as something like Munchkin. A little bit more straightforward. You'll run into less weird interference with cards doing strange things when they interact. And that will go into what is going on with Desperation. Greater Than Games was bought by something called Flat River Group. And that is the parent company that now owns Greater Than Games. Desperation was supposed to come out kind of late in 2024. It's got pushed into 2025. Well, something happened here that ended up affecting a lot of board game manufacturers, and that was the tariffs. And I'm not going to go into politics about the tariffs. I'm just going to talk about tariffs in the context of this particular game here. That since that was supposed to be coming out, they had kind of looked at August as the release date for Desperation. Flat River Group decided that they were going to just completely stop production on the Desperation expansion there, and for that matter they were going to kind of just essentially close Greater Than Games. They're still going to sell the stock that Greater Than has in stock. They're going to sell that, but right now they've pretty much just let all the employees go, and that whole thing has just stopped. What does that mean? I don't know. There was like like a Kickstarter and everything going on for Desperation. So is that going to continue at some point? You would think that Flat River would want to do something with the Sentinels property that they have, and that Desperation, they could just start up production on that again, but we don't know what that would look like. Right now, this video was filmed in late May of 2025, and we've had the tariffs go from like super stupid down to like just higher than what they had been before, and we really don't know where things are going on that. And I think that Flat River does not want to make a move on it, not knowing what things are going to look like, since these tariffs are kind of coming and going on a whim. So we don't know what that looks like, and we don't know what that means for Greater Than Games and for the future of this property. I suspect it's going to show back up in some form, and I suspect that Desperation, since it's already been developed, that it would show up at some point, but we don't know when or what that would look like. But anyway, these two games though are still easily available here, and can definitely recommend both of these. Remember, this is the definitive edition that we're talking about. We're not talking about the original game. We're also not talking about the Rook City expansion that was there on that original game. We're talking about just these definitive editions. Just make sure you can see definitive edition on it, and you're looking at the one that I've gone over here, which I think is a pretty great game. So, if you found this video interesting, give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down to the comment section and let me know what you think about all this down there. And you can also subscribe to my channel and make sure you catch all the videos that I post so you don't miss anything. This is Jeremy with To The Tabletop, and we'll see you around next time.